It is the Doomsday Podcast, and boy, look at our studio. We've changed studios from yesterday. It's very quiet, very nice in here,
indoors.
And thanks to the Cowboys who have provided us with a very special access to a team room, let's call it. And it is the Doomsday Podcast. Werder and Mosley with you from Oxnard, California. Today was the big Rams Cowboys joint practice, but Ed, we have an opportunity to share with our audience, kind of a rare thing, a 25-minute sit down with Executive Vice President of the Cowboys, Stephen Jones. And it's really good stuff. I'm anxious to share it with everybody, but I thought Stephen was open. I thought we covered in a pretty short time quite a few topics. And so I'm excited to share this because I think Stephen gave us some really good things on a lot of fronts.
And right before I came in here, while you were setting everything up for us, and Stephen was making a phone call or two and getting several during our interview, I talked to Jerry Jones. And he was talking about the fact that he thought that this was a great practice. He likes the fact that, Dak Prescott's probably not going to play at all in the preseason. He all but ruled that out, which is standard operating procedure and smart business here. And talked about how the joint practice at least gets him out there against the defense he's not entirely familiar with like he is when he's practicing against the Cowboys defense. He's also very eager, and we have Stephen talk about this as well, where Trey Lance is in his development and what the Cowboys are looking for out of him as they see him he's been here for over a full year now, but the Cowboys have not seen him in a preseason game until this Sunday against the Rams. So they're curious to see that. And Jerry said he thinks this is the best draft class they've ever had. And obviously with the holes they have on defense at linebacker, in the offensive line, at running back, I think is a liability still. They need obviously a strong contribution from their draft picks, which to Mike McCarthy's credit, he's generally played young guys and they've been effective in developing young talent.
Yep, and early in this interview, a quick appearance by Mike McCarthy sort of accidentally walked into.
He was horrified to see
podcast.
Oh my God.
What's happening? I've never seen a man turn around and run out of here so quickly. But good to see Mike, and it's good to be with you. So without further ado, we want to share with you our interview with Stephen Jones. And thanks so much to Rogue Media Network. And Mike, please play the music.
Hey, welcome to the Doomsday Podcast. We're in one of these very private hotel-like rooms here that really isn't accessible to most media.
No, it's not.
We're
just special guys.
Yeah, just special invitation extended by
friends of the team.
Cowboys, Executive Vice President, CEO, Director of Pro Personnel, Stephen Jones. Is that enough titles for you?
I'll take it.
Okay,
We stop there.
I think
you gave me a promotion along the way, so I'll take it.
Well, I was just trying to come up with a few titles Jerry doesn't have. I know the rest of them are yours.
There you go.
Anyway, so we want you to give us a sense of the roster and some of the competition, but obviously there's two things we need to address first that's on every Cowboy fan's mind, and that's the status of CeeDee Lamb, who's holding out in a contract disagreement, and Dak Prescott, who's here and competing and participating, but going into the last year of his contract, and there have been obviously negotiations with him. The other day you guys put CeeDee Lamb on the reserve did not report list to create roster space so you can get your work done out here. What was the purpose of that, and what does that say about where you are in the negotiating process?
I don't think it says anything, Ed. At the end of the day, we didn't need the roster spots. And, as we move forward and we're starting to get some guys, tweaked and injured and can't practice, we need some numbers, in the defensive line and the linebacker spot. And, we've had that spot. We've had the spot available, which we've known Sam was going to IR, unfortunately. One of the tougher things about this training camp has been losing Sam. And
Mike McCarthy, you're welcome anytime.
You can join us anytime.
Can we get another
things to do? Can we have a good practice, Coach? We had a great practice.
Okay. Hey, McCarthy just joined us.
But one of the tougher things about camp was losing Sam. But we put him on IR too to make room. And So it doesn't say anything about, our negotiation with CD. We just knew we had that roster spot, and when he reports, which we certainly believe he will at some point, and hopefully with a new contract. But, we continue to make progress. Things are very cordial with both players. We've got a challenging situation. It's a great situation to have, but it's challenging when you have one of the top quarterbacks in the league, and then you've got two of the best non-quarterback players in the league, a pass rusher, Micah Parsons and CeeDee Lamb. And, we believe that as well, that they're two of the top non-quarterback players in this league. So, it's a negotiation that we're obviously, having to work hard at it, because you also, at the end of the day, want to be able to put some other players. Those three guys can't go out and play the game by themselves. So we've just got to continue to work at it. I feel good about it, and we'll continue, to work with Dak and his representatives and CD and his representatives.
I know you've talked about what a unique situation you're in, and to some degree that's true, but then we've seen Miami solve that situation despite their quarterback being a highly paid guy. Detroit this offseason did the same thing with Jared Goff. So it's obviously not impossible.
No, not at all. And even with our situation, not to interrupt you, I'm sorry, but, one of the unique things when you, in the first year or two of a quarterback contract for the first time, which Dak was 4 years ago, we had several other players, Tyron Smith, Zach Martin. I mean, we had a lot of different guys that were around that. It's easier, but as you continue to push money out on these quarterback salaries, and that money you pushed out comes back home to roost. And so, it's like I said, it's certainly something that's very doable, and we plan on doing it because we want all three players here. And we think we have the best chance to win a championship by having those three players on our roster.
Yeah, interrupt, Ed, anytime you want to. Okay, I think that's totally fine. What does a player miss out on the most, like in a holdout? You had it a few years ago with Zeke. Is it more of like the
Martin?
You had Zach. Is it like the bonding part of it? Is the chemistry, in this case with the receivers and Dak and obviously your backup quarterbacks? What do they miss out on the most, do you think?
Well, I think the biggest thing is, in CD's situation, it'd be timing and with Dak. But the great news is I think CD and Dak been working on timing all off season. And I know Dak gets the guys together and works with them. And, of course, because they have had, a great combination between the two of them working together in the year they had last year, I don't think we're going to miss too much there. I'm not in any way discounting that we'd love to have CD here, but obviously Zach Martin, we had that situation. We've had Zeke. Teams around the league have those situations, especially better teams with better players. You have it. I know San Francisco's, you look around, they're fighting through their situation. So, it's part of the business. And like I said, we think the world of CD. We understand where he's coming from on this and why he's not here. But we also continue to work very hard on getting this deal done.
The 49ers are obviously been having trade conversations with Brandon Ayuk as a possible resolution to that situation. Do you see that being a factor at all here?
Zero thought process of not having CD be a Dallas Cowboy.
And Dak, despite maybe
by the way, CD can't go play anywhere. He's under contract, and then we have franchise tags available. So CD's not going to be playing anywhere but Dallas. And but we want this to be a great situation for him when we're all said and done, but also a good situation so that we can put a great football team on the field.
My last question on Dak. Obviously, the market now seems to have been made at quarterback. It's like $55 million. The last three guys have gotten $55 million. There's been guys like Troy Aikman have said Dak Prescott could be the first $60 million player.
Mm-hmm.
I guess the complication for you is he's a highly valued, young enough quarterback that he could now, 17 games from now, hit the market and be an unrestricted free agent. And now you have to sort of pay him not to do that, right? Can you just speak to the fact that you, despite appearances to the contrary, you do believe in this guy and you do want him to be your long-term quarterback?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've signed him to a long-term deal last time, and, we don't look at it that way. We look at it that Dak's our partner in this. We're trying to win a championship. No one wants to win a championship more than Dak Prescott. I can assure you of that. And we don't look at it like we're trying to, pay him not to go somewhere else. We just look at it as we're working with him and his representatives to try to come up with something that's good for Dak and his family, which congrats to him. He's got a new addition to his family. And we certainly
cost a lot.
They cost a lot. But of all people, Jerry in particular doesn't blame anybody for wanting to make money. So we certainly understand that. But, he's just, he's the leader of this franchise. No one respects him or thinks more than the Jones family, the Cowboys organization. And we just continue to work to get something done.
And I guess the upside, like even on the CD thing, with watching today, after we just watched that Rams joint practice, I mean, I'm looking down at my flip. Obviously I should have all these guys memorized, but Flournoy climbs the ladder, makes a big play. So you are getting probably a lot more reps for some of these guys.
No question.
Brooks, and so, I mean,
Tolbert.
Tolbert's in the mix. What are you seeing from those guys? And it is, I think, a positive of this.
Well, last year we had a college free agent, TJ Bass, who got a lot of reps while Zach Martin wasn't in camp. And TJ ended up getting so many reps that he just got better and better, and he made our football team, and now he's one of our top offensive linemen. And, he's slam dunk to make our football team. And, that came from reps. And certainly you nailed it. When CD's not here, these young players get to step up, and to watch a Brooks, to watch a Tolbert, really continue to get better. And then Flournoy, it's great to see that, because unfortunately he had a little, had some issues with the knee that he was working through, but gets right back out there. And I noticed him too. Those were some really nice catches that he made. And obviously a guy we drafted and we think a lot of, but those are the pros that come from, the positives that come. I was, we were with the Rams today, and I was talking to Kevin Demoff, and, they're missing 3 of their starting offensive linemen right now due to injury. And they wonder, how are we even going to get a good look for Stafford in the group? But sure enough, he said, now we're starting to see some young guys we probably wouldn't have seen that are stepping up. And that's what happens. When these guys get opportunities, you get the opportunity. You happen to have the right skill set and the right, the right mindset to go out and be successful. And this is how guys make it this league.
In the offensive line, as you mentioned, you've created openings there with Tyler Biadasz leaving at center to go to Washington, Tyron Smith can end his Hall of Fame career somewhere else. And you could be playing rookies at those 2 positions, depending on what Hoffman does. Obviously, he's the number 1 center right now. Where do you see the offensive line? Is that still the strength of this team?
We think it's a strength. And, right away, I think Mike McCarthy would echo that. I think Dak Prescott.
When he was here.
We could have just pulled him over here. He's the head coach. But I think they would echo those thoughts that, this draft class we have, you throw Nate Thomas in there, but certainly Tyler Guyton is going to give Chuma all and more to be the starting left tackle on this team. He was doing great things. He had a virus the last 3 or 4 days, but he'll be back out there. BB's every bit as advertised, and that'll be a great battle. Hoffman's got all the makeup to be a gritty offensive lineman in this league, but certainly, and he's certainly not going to give it up. But it's great to have these guys stepping up. And then, as I mentioned, the TJ Basses and Awesome Richards from last year, we've just got a great group of guys in terms of, we think coming along. And, that's the tough thing when you're going to keep 3 players like we're trying to keep, then you got to make a tough decision on a Tyron Smith, on a Tyler Biadasz. I mean, those are the things, on a Tony Pollard. And that's part of the business. And, hats off to Will McClay and his group and how they've worked with Jerry and myself and the coaching staff. Drafting has been a strong part of this organization over the last 10 years. And it has to be. You have to bring those guys in. You have to play and develop these guys, plug and play them. And certainly we feel good about this draft class. You throw in Nealon. Someone was looking over us when we picked a defensive end, because, as I mentioned, losing Sam Williams, Nealon's going to get a ton of reps and this season. I mean, he's going to be right there getting starter-type reps. And then linebacker like Marist. And then other guy who showed up today, young guy, later pick, is Carson. And,
he had a pick on the
he did that and had some great special teams reps, but also I think he knocked the ball down as well. So, it's a great opportunity for these guys to step up and make plays.
if that's CD's agent trying to call, I mean,
You'd let me off.
feel free. Yeah, I
Do
mean,
it right here on
if
air.
you- that would be good. That would make for.
We'll share it with Hard Knocks.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh, yeah.
or docu-series.
For a wire. The Mozzie, it's been an interesting story, and got to see some, and you're up there perched up, so you're looking at everything. But a couple of his pass rushes, I got to go down there and see some one-on-ones, and really looked explosive and made some plays. So are you seeing a guy gain some confidence, and are you thinking
Better
maybe?
scheme fit? Was
No
it?
question.
Yeah, who knows?
Well, Ed, I think you're spot on. Some guys don't step right in this league and play right away, but then they go on to have great careers. And obviously, Mozzie being a first-round pick, a lot of expectations, hard to meet those sometimes. But there's no question, I think the scheme, too, with what Mike's asking him to do, fits what he did at Michigan. Now, not that, obviously Mozzie was trying to fit in with DQ as well. And we were certainly trying to beef up stopping the run with DQ. But, Zim's scheme is more designed, to stop the run and earn the right to rush the passer. So I do think Mozzie's fitting in well with what Coach Zimmer and Coach Z are trying to get accomplished with him, and he's starting to feel more and more comfortable. I'm with you. I think he feels more and more comfortable about what his role is going to be on this football team, and it's a role that he's comfortable with.
Is seeing Zim back, is that like old home week?
It's the greatest. I love Dan Quinn. Don't get me
And you
wrong.
had great success on
but,
defense and turning the ball over, scoring defensive touchdowns. You led the league 3 years in a row.
Well, he's outstanding. I mean, no one enjoyed being around DQ more than I did. But certainly we go back a long ways with Mike Zimmer. He's one of the great defensive minds in this league. Great head coach at Minnesota. And we just feel fortunate to have him. And I think, all the guys are buying in to what he's all about and his staff. And I really feel like we're going to have another great defensive football team that, will do a lot of great things and help us win a lot of football games.
What about Zim's temperament? I was going to just say, how about Zim's temperament? I mean, that could be a plus, right?
Had changed. It's a huge plus, but it's different than Dan Quinn. But people accomplish things in different ways. You can. There's a lot of different ways to skin a cat in this league, and certainly, but they are different personalities in terms of how they go about their business. But both have been amazingly successful, and certainly, I'm fortunate to. Get to be around, to have been around both, and now get to be around Zim again is great to have him back.
And how excited are you to see Trey Lance perform in the preseason? And where have you seen the most growth in him over these? We got to talk to him yesterday. A really impressive guy. Where has he grown the most, and what are your thoughts on it?
His biggest thing is just the details, and and by the way, he's a guy who wants to pay attention to every detail. It's not that. It's just, he hadn't had a lot of time on the job. You look at his college career. He played one season of college football. Obviously impressive because he was the third pick in the draft.
And they gave him a lot to get the third pick in the draft.
And he's a great athlete, and he's got a really strong arm. It's just time on the job and, perfecting the small things, whether it's the footwork, the carriage of the ball, the releases, which Coach Mike McCarthy is just tremendous in terms of, what he's developing quarterbacks. And, there's so many things. And then the other thing Trey has is a lot like Dak. He's just got that it factor. He wants to work at it. He can't work hard enough. He's just a great young man that I think is all in front of him. And certainly, he's going to get the majority of the preseason reps. And I think he's only going to go like that as we move forward. But certainly, look forward to watching him this preseason.
What about the return of Trayvon Diggs? I don't know that his absence, given how good the defense was without him, I think people forget what a great player he is, and you're going to get him back.
Well, I mean, there's two guys who,
Diggs and Bland.
between Diggs and Bland, that just have had some great years in terms of getting the ball, in terms of taking it to the house. To have both those guys out there, one on either side, and then of course the fierce competitor Jay Lou in the slot there, and then you got a guy like Carson coming. Starting to feel pretty good about that corner situation. And but it is, as you said, there hadn't been a lot said. But you take a guy like a Diggs, another guy, who we not talked about a lot, but is going to make a huge difference on defense, who we didn't have last year's Overshown. And he's making a lot of plays. Coach Zim just loves him in terms of what he can bring to his defense. And, there's two guys right now that step in, and then you look at a guy like John Stevens, and, he's coming off his knee, and that tight end room's really strong. So, feel really good about this football team right now.
And coming off the Green Bay, loss, your biggest, when you kind of thought about it, you had time to let that soak in, what was your biggest takeaway of we have got to do this to get over that hump? I mean, because maybe part of you goes, was that a fluke? What was that? How do you, going into this season and knowing how that felt, what have you done to make you feel like, okay, we're ready to avoid a situation like that again?
Well, I think you got to start with the fact that you can't take for granted that you're just going to roll the ball out there and win 12 games in the regular season. That doesn't happen in the NFL. I think, the success Mike's had with his team over a 3-year period, I think it's right at the top in terms of the number of games.
Only the Chiefs have won more.
One more. And so
They won Super Bowls.
But you can't take that for granted. But we also know, and everybody in this organization, from the players to the coaches to ownership, know that if we do that, which is not a given, that people are still going to say, but let's see. And we understand that. You can't just point to one thing and say this is what you got to do. You just have to keep believing that we've got a great group of men that are going to suit up. We've got a great coaching staff, and we're going to go to work out here and get the job done in the regular season. We have to start there and then give ourselves the opportunity again to go out and get the job done in the postseason. And we certainly understand why there's frustration with our fans. We certainly understand why there could be doubt or criticism. And we just have to go get the job done. And until we do that, there'll be doubt and there'll be criticism.
The decision not to extend Mike McCarthy, does that create pressure on everybody?
Those are things that, has happened around here before.
Yeah,
I mean, Jason Garrett went into the last year of his contract twice. Yeah. And 1 year we renewed him for a long term. And certainly the last time that we moved on in a different situation. But, we've visited with Mike, and he knows that. We just want to, get to work and get focused on just this year and get the job done. And I think he's done an amazing job with he and his staff of preparing this football team. I think we're having a great training camp out here. We feel like we've got a really strong football team. Again, we're not going to take anything for granted that we can just roll the ball out there and go to the playoffs, because we all know there's a lot of teams in this league give anything just to get in the playoffs. But we're certainly not one of those. We know what the bar is when you're a Dallas Cowboy, and that's to win a world championship. And until we do that, there'll be frustration, there'll be doubt, and there'll be criticism.
Right. I'm intrigued that you keep bringing up Kalen Carson's name. So I've now got to do a big circle there. And anytime I see somebody like in 41, I still think of Newman. I have a hard time. He's kind of yeah.
Well, Newman was, I think, 175 pounds sopping wet. Carson is a thick guy for a quarter. You'll notice a big difference in a hurry that it's not Newman. But Newman was a great player, don't get me wrong.
Well, I think it's great that you've accurately, I think, characterized how people view this team and what they want to see before they believe in this team in the way that I know you probably still do. And you've always been gracious with your time with us and analyzing the team and breaking it all down, and we greatly appreciate that. And I'm sure the fans respect it as well.
Well, I enjoy being on with you guys. You're good men.
Yeah.
We don't pay.
Appreciate you guys. Thank you.
We are Rogue Media Sports.